Hello everyone and welcome to week number 6. This week is full of very interesting topics, even though they seem a little strange. This week we are focusing on computers in the medical office, managing the medical records, and telephone communications. So with that being said, we are going to be focusing on 3 chapters, Chapter 7, Chapter 12, and Chapter 13. And I'm going to go a little bit out of order here. I'm actually going to start talking about Chapter 12, then we will move on to Chapter 7, and then we'll wrap it up with Chapter 13. So Chapter 12 is talking about computers in the medical office. And computers play such an important role in the medical office, from diagnosing patients to monitoring patients and even reporting patient progress. Computers help to enhance the quality of care through data collection, and it helps to eliminate duplicate work and decrease in errors. Computers are also valuable because they help to eliminate some more time-consuming tasks, such as scheduling patients, charting, billing, and even insurance processing. Now, in order for us as medical assistants to be successful in both clinical and administrative areas, we need to be familiar with computers, their parts, and how they work. So let's take a basic look at those. So let's start with the basics. So some of you may be very tech savvy and know all about computers, but some of us don't. When we're talking about computers, computers are made up of 3 components. They're made up of hardware, software, storage, and security. So I'm going to talk about each of these topics a little bit more in depth so we get a better idea of each of those categories. We're going to start with talking about hardware. So hardware is referred to as the Central Processing Unit, or the CPU. The CPU is essentially the traffic controller or the brain of all of the computer activities. Everything that has to run runs through the CPU. And hardware consists of input and output devices. Some examples of input devices for the hardware are keyboards, mouses, touchscreens, microphones, scanners, and cameras. The best way to think about this is input devices are anything that you put into the computer, okay? Whereas output devices are the things that give us out information, such as the monitors or the printers. The software is essentially the instruction manual that allows the computers to do its functions. It's also called an operating system. It helps to think about it this way. The operating system will help the computer to run. For example, when you sign into your computers, you have Windows or an iOS or a Mac. Those are all operating systems. Computers can also have what we call application software. And this application software is pretty much called general purpose. And the biggest one that people can think of is Microsoft Office or Skype. And Microsoft Office has many different pieces to it, such as Word, Excel, Access, PowerPoint, and Publisher. All of those are software elements for computers. The final piece here is the security or storage. So safety on computers includes regular maintenance, password protection, antivirus protection, and HIPAA compliance. It is essential for medical assistants to understand that other patients should not be able to see computerized records. For this reason, HIPAA developed what we call a security rule. This provides national standards for protecting electronic protected health information, or EPHI. Some of these safeguards include administrative safeguards, which are designating a privacy officer, conducting training programs about protecting PHI, and having backup or recovery plans in case of an emergency. It also includes physical safety guards, which are the ability to prevent unauthorized users from physically accessing the data, and technical safeguards, which are electronic protections to prevent unauthorized access over the network. So that's kind of Chapter 12 in a nutshell for you. Let's move on and talk about Chapter 7. And Chapter 7 is dealing with telephone etiquette and how we use a telephone. So like computers, telephones are one of the most vital tools within the medical office. The key within the medical office is to ensure that every phone encounter is not only courteous, but efficient, accurate, and professional. That means that we do not answer the phone in a medical office like we do at home. For example, when I'm in a medical office, I would answer the phone and say, "Thank you for calling, this is Corey." Whereas if I'm at home, I just answer and say, "Hey, what's up?" That's a big difference, right? Attention to detail is also required when you're answering the phone, taking messages, or even taking refill requests. Now, most offices will provide you with a script to use when you're answering phone calls in the office. And it contains 5 key ingredients. Those are that you want to smile, greet the patient, watch your speech, you want to make sure that you identify the caller, and listen to them. First thing you always want to do is smile. I know it sounds silly, but you want to act like that patient is right in front of you. And if you smile when you're answering the phone, that can be heard in your voice. As opposed to if I'm just sitting here with a scowl on my face, you can tell that somebody is angry over the phone. Watch your greeting. When you're answering a phone, you always want to give the name of the office or physician that they're calling into, what your name is, and ask how they can help. So for example, when I work at my clinic, I answer the phone and I say, "OSF Medical Group, this is Corey, how can I help you?" I've hit all of those things, and I let them know that they're calling the appropriate place. Number 3, watch your speech. You want to make sure that you use clarity, which means that you make sure you can be understood. You want to have nothing in your mouth, no food, no drinks, no gum. All of that can jumble up your wording. Enunciate your words. And make sure you're watching your tone of pitch. You don't want to be yelling at them, but you don't also want to talk so quiet that no one can hear you. Number 4, identify the caller. I feel like this is probably one of the most important pieces. You want to make sure that you ask them for their name and their date of birth, okay? Simply saying, "Okay, I can help you with that. Can you please tell me your last name and date of birth?" And then sometimes you may even need a first name, okay? And finally, listen to them. Patients don't want to have to repeat themselves multiple times, so make sure when you're taking that phone call, you're not so worried about making sure you get everything down. Maybe listen to what they're saying and hit the highlighted points in your message to the provider. Now, there is so much more to Chapter 7, but I'm going to leave this here for you guys to read upon and discover what else is out there for you guys. And I'm going to move on to Chapter 13, which is talking about managing the medical records. Now, more often than not, you'll be working with electronic charts, but there are still some places that have paper medical records. So that doesn't mean that this chapter isn't important, because it definitely is. A medical record contains all the written documents that relate to the patient's health care. Regardless of whether it's going to be paper or electronic, it's still containing that same information. The medical record is a legal document, and it's a permanent record. It's a tool that we as medical staff use to communicate not only within ourselves in the office, but also with other offices and other providers. So a couple of things that are really important to make sure that you understand is when you're documenting in a patient's chart, everything needs to be done at the patient's visit or when they call in or when it's discussed in an email. Don't come back to it later and think that you can pick right back up, because you will have forgotten things. Everything needs to be documented. The motto is, if it wasn't documented, it wasn't done. Make sure that your entries are in black ink only, and your handwriting should be clear and easy to read. You also want to make sure that you sign and date all of your entries, okay? Now, we're all human, and errors definitely do happen, but how do you handle an error in a medical record? Well, first and foremost, if something does happen, do not erase the error. And you never get to use whiteout anymore. That is now gone from your life. Simply draw one line through the error so the original entry can still be seen. Put your initials and the date above the line and write the word error. Then you can write the correction after the error so somebody else can see that that was done. If you find an error in somebody's chart and somebody else has done that, do not correct the error. Please take it to them and privately tell them that they've made a mistake and they need to correct it. And finally, who owns the medical record? This is a really important question to understand because as a legal document, we want to know who owns this. Technically, the medical record is owned by the patient, but the facility that created the information owns the physical or electronic record. Patients have a right to view their medical records at any time, at any place if they want, and they always have to have a present faculty or staff member. Now, because a patient owns the medical record, we do need their permission in order to release any records. That's why all of your patients will sign a notice of privacy practices when they're new to the facility or every year after that. This form means that the patient gives us consent to send their medical records for any information, treatment, payments, or operations as defined by HIPAA to other providers if it is warranted by a change of provider or even a continuation of care. All right, so that is chapters 7, 12, and 13 all wrapped up for you in a nice little bundle. Please make sure that you are reading those still on your own completely, as there is more information that is covered that can help you with not only your homework this week, but your discussion post this week and your quiz. Okay? So this week, your homework discussion board is on what is meaningful use. So there's a couple of short little videos that will help you better understand that topic. So please make sure that you read them prior to completing your discussion post. Your initial discussion post will be due Tuesday, August 8th by midnight. And remember, you need to reply to at least one classmate no later than Saturday, August 12th by midnight. You have another course project summary to write this week, which is over the Tdap, which is tetanus, diphtheria, and pertussis. You can find that VIS on the CDC website, so please make sure that you read through that and complete your VIS summary no later than Sunday, August 13th by midnight. And you do have one quiz this week. It is 20 multiple questions with a 20-minute time limit. That will also be due Sunday, August 13th by midnight. All right, guys, that is all I have for you. As always, if you have any questions or concerns, please make sure that you reach out to me either via Blackboard email or my direct line on the Rockford campus, which you can find on your course homepage in the top right-hand section next to my photo. And I hope you all have a wonderful week 6, and I look forward to seeing what you put together this week. Bye, guys.